Oh, awful. But probably what it would have been like, absolutely horrendous.
Please!
There'll be no mercy. Fight!
Alright, so we're carrying on. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He loves that finisher, doesn't he? My name's Jordan. I run the Academy of Steel, which is a historical European martial arts school. Today we're going to be talking about fencing and swordsmanship in video games.
My boy, war is a nasty business.
I see you're a fellow.
All right. So first of all, this looks fantastic. All right, cool. So the clothing so far looks, it looks good. We know that this period, I think that they kind of experienced a sort of like a mini ice age at one point. Like everything, it became much colder during the medieval period, so they were wearing much thicker clothing. Certain knives wouldn't actually penetrate the cloth. So I'm interested to see if the clothing is going to offer any kind of protection against these weapons. Oh, okay, so we've got to fight.
You then, you piece of
Enough!
You're no match for us,
Alright, that was rude. So he's holding a Pavi shield, which is really interesting because we don't see them very often in video games and films. The Pavi shields were particularly good for crossbowmen. You literally set them down and then you've got mobile cover, so you're winding your crossbow or you're loading your crossbow while holding these Pavi shields in place and then popping up and shooting from behind them. So it's actually nice to see them in use here.
Show your stuff! I'll kill you!
So it's nice use of the Pavis there for cover. Also, the parrying action was quite nice there. So coming across to guard quite high and then returning fire. That was really cool. I like what I'm seeing so far. Just running away. I mean, I would.
Show what you're made of!
Oh, man, they are really on you. Okay, so the weapon he's using seems to be like a messer. It looks like a messer, basically a knife, like a big knife. They would have used for basically carrying for self-defense. The guy in the armor. Oh, okay, cool. That was good. The guy in the armor seems to be using a pole hammer, so it would be very bad news to be hit by that, even once. One tap to the head, you're probably gone. Like your health bar is, it's disappeared. That guy's very dangerous. And considering that the weapon that the protagonist is using is a knife, and he's wearing chain. Chain is very good armor against cutting weapons, so the only real option you have here is to run away, which is what he's been trying to do, or to stab him in the face, because that seems to be the only exposed part. Okay, that was cool.
Show your stuff!
Carrying the past, yes, nice, okay. For the guards that the guy is using where he's drawing the knife back, you would have absolutely seen this kind of thing. It meant that your opponent couldn't affect your blade. So if I hold my blade forward and somebody strikes at it, they've obviously created an opening. So with a strike to the blade, their second action could be to hit me. So withdrawing the blade allows me to kind of deny them any kind of binding action. Okay, so again, we see the blade withdrawn. That's pretty good. It is leaving him open, and that is one of the weaknesses, obviously, with having the blade withdrawn. If you do move to cover your head, it's a pretty quick action to be able to do, but it relies on you being faster than your opponent, which is a bit dicey. Good cover. Nice use of the pommel there. So when your opponent gets in close, it does make sense to use the quillons and the pommel to strike at them instead of the blade, because the blade requires some amount of momentum to be able to make a good cut. Slicing actions, obviously fine, but slicing actions don't guarantee that your opponent is going to die. In the case of using the quillons and the pommel, they are very vicious. The pommel is basically a mace that you have on the end of your sword. It acts as a counterweight, so when they come in close, you can absolutely pop it to the face to create a little bit of distance, to stun your opponent, and then hit them with the coup de grace.
Give me all your weaponry, now! And all your armor too! I'll hack you to pieces.
You're not getting a thing.
Oh, okay, so we're wearing armor now. That's good. It looks like we're wearing, male mittens. Pretty good, except for the fact that he looks like he's holding, again, some sort of mass weapon, which means that if he strikes our hands and crushes our fingers, not going to be able to hold onto the sword. So that's going to be a problem. But against cuts and largely a lot of thrusts as well, the hands are pretty safe. They're one of the most vulnerable parts of the body when fighting with longsword. The combat in this is fantastic. The cuts that are being put in, really nice. There's a good variety of strikes. You can see, obviously, where you're intending to cover with the sword. The sword is both your offense, and when you only have a longsword, it's also your shield. So you have to basically, it's a case of like cut, come to cover, cut, come to cover. So it's cool that we're seeing this kind of motion. Nice cover, and returning with thrusts, absolutely, fantastic.
Fuck you. Enough. I give up.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so we see that the sword moves from the right shoulder to the left shoulder. We do see this in the medieval manuals. It's a really common stance to take the sword at the right shoulder because we're very good at clubbing things. If you think about when people get into a bar fight, and they pick up a bottle, they don't do anything, particularly technical with it. They pick it up and they try to club people with it. We're naturally inclined to do this. So having the sword at the right shoulder or the left shoulder in preparation to throw these cuts, yeah, absolutely, this makes sense. It's a very, very good thing to see that they're playing with these stances.
Please.
There'll be no mercy. Fight!
Ooh. All right, so we're carrying on. Okay, there we go. That's pretty much going to do it for him. A lot of the sources that we look at, because again it was written for a particular audience, they do deal with driving the point to the throat, finishing them that way. It's a rough ending, but it would be worse to be on the business end of a mace. Wow, okay, fantastic. We're going to see the use of a hand-gun. They would have had these, especially by the Ottomans, I think. Just let me get closer. Whoosh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Arrest him! Christ, oh God! What are you doing?
All right, fantastic. And the dog's getting involved. Okay. Yeah, so using farm implements, definitely. You'd use whatever you could get your hand on. Again, we're seeing these kind of like striking actions. I think more likely against somebody like this, I would probably be using thrusts more, just to kind of like, keep him at bay. The moment you withdraw the staff weapon, it's an opportunity for your opponent to close. So a lot of the time, having that point in presence means that they have to deal with that point before that they can get to you. And then once they've stepped past that point, drawing it back and then just bludgeoning them with whatever you've got is your next best bet.
You should have yielded.
So these parrying actions we're seeing, they're quite nice. We would often call this a beat. So rather than trying to stop somebody's weapon dead as they're throwing the cut, you strike it offline. So kind of like, again, catching a punch in boxing, it's a case of like sweeping it aside to create an opening, allowing them to continue with their momentum and just sort of like displacing the energy of their strikes so that you can make a counter strike of your own. Using the shield offensively is great. Like, it's not something that we see very often, but absolutely, if you've parried high with a sword, it makes sense to use the rim of the shield to very quickly just jab in, maybe break somebody's nose. Yeah, this is good to see. So I think it's quite interesting that he stepped in the way of his partner. This kind of thing would happen. We sometimes see it when we're just doing like training simulations. People would have cut down their own. So obviously here there's no sort of friendly fire, but people stepping in the way of cuts, or people bringing their sword back to like hurt their own people. Definitely we would see a lot of this happening. I know that was probably more of a glitch, but it was, it would have been interesting if he'd been cut down by his own guy. Helmets were pretty good at dealing with sword blows. It would have been nice if we'd seen kind of like the thing glance off the helmet. So the hourglass gauntlets that we can see the protagonist using, they were shaped like that so that if the cut came in and hit the back of the hand, it would glance off away the person wielding the sword. So everything is designed to try and get things to glance off away from you. The drawback to hourglass gauntlets is that people can grab them. So if you get too close, people can grab them and they'll just start hammering away. Again, with the pommel or the quillons, the crossguard. So, swings and roundabouts.
I'll kill you on the spot if you don't yield.
Oh, fantastic. So that thrust in from the right shoulder, that's wonderful. We see this all the time in the sources. You're basically doing two things at once. So it's a single time defense. You're covering your head with the strong of your blade while simultaneously threatening with the point and driving that in. It's one of my favorite things to do when fencing. I don't think that the chap in question would continue fighting after that. I think his shoulder would probably be ruined. Normally a finisher, if it hits anything, that point is going to ruin you. Oh, cool. Okay, so again, we've seen a parry and a very quick riposte with something that resembles what's called a zwerhau. So it's a very quick, very ballistic use of both ends of the sword. You basically parry with one edge and then cut very quickly to the other side of the blade with the other. So yeah, chef's kiss. That was phenomenal.
You'll kill it.
So you can see what I mean with this sort of like Darth Vader shaped helmet. Like anything that hits at the top and that glances down is going to hit those side pieces and just glance away from it. With the axe that he's using, I would probably reverse it. So I'd have the axe head facing towards me and the beak or the spike at the back facing towards my opponent, because I think by this point the main character is very armored up, so it makes more sense to have that short, sharp spike so that you can punch through the armor. Again, some phenomenal covering action here. That's great. He loves that finisher, doesn't he? Okay, this is great. The use of the crenellations, hiding behind the crenellation, then popping out to shoot. Yeah, absolutely textbook.
What the f*** are you?
Although we see the use of the Pavi shields as mentioned earlier, you can see them stacked up there, so that mobile armor is actually these guys with the shields on their backs. The chap with the Pavis there. Yeah, I mean, sure, I would probably ditch it, put it against the barricade, unless you're planning to fall back to somewhere else later, but presumably you would have already built that. So again, I'm nitpicking. So gatehouses in particular were vicious. The use of like two portcullises, it was quite ingenious. They would often open the outer portcullis and allow people to come in to try and lay siege. Then they would drop it and basically just slaughter anybody inside with the use of murder holes, or in the case here, they'd be shooting them with handguns and crossbows. There would often be like slits in the sides of the gatehouse where people could just shove spears through or drop hot water. So they were really vicious. It was essentially like a mousetrap. Like bring them in, slaughter them on the hole, and then raise the gate again and try and get more people to come in through. But probably what it would have been like, absolutely horrendous. Like the worst job in the world trying to siege a castle. So Escalade. Yeah, Escalade was something that we saw quite frequently, where they would bring the ladders up to the walls, try and climb over. It made sense for them to try to clear the walls with archers first. You didn't want to send your men up against a group of people who were prepared and waiting for them. So you'd usually soften up the defense by absolutely raining arrows and everything else, which is what it looks like the camp is doing there in the background. They're obviously trying to soften up the defense. So yeah, cool to see this. Oh, okay, that is great. The amount of effort that he's exerting into pushing that ladder away. The ladders weren't necessarily heavy, because they were usually something that were something you could assemble quickly, or they would just get engineers to go to the forest and make them right before the siege. So it wasn't that they were necessarily heavy, but because of that angle, it wasn't something that you could just kick away, with your foot. So to see them actually like having to force them off with a pole arm, great. Yeah, chef's kiss. In cases like this, when you would approach somebody from behind, again, we'd probably see more half-swording action. So rather than just kind of like going up to somebody who's in armor and just sort of stabbing them lightly, getting their attention, and then having to fight multiple opponents, you'd probably pass your sword over their neck and either try and cut their throat or drag them down to the floor where you would finish them off, and then move on to the next one. Pass your blade over the neck, drag them down, finish them off, that sort of thing. Okay, we'll see some one-on-one stuff. Oh, and we see some half-swording. Beautiful. There you go. That was great. And again, that kind of like catching it on the blade and, turning in with the edge of the sword there. That high guard that he's taking, in the German, it would be called vom Tag or high vom Tag, so from the day. It's a really intimidating guard, and you can actually make more cuts from it than you'd think. You can obviously make those very powerful descending cuts, or you can switch into those shoulder cuts so that you're just sort of dropping the point down and coming in up underneath the armor into the armpits and unprotected places on the body or towards the face. So yeah, chef's kiss. I love what I'm seeing here. And again, that cover into a thrust, beautiful. One of the things that I really like that I'm seeing here is, again, you're not seeing that kind of wind up to the cuts, that double chambering. So yeah, that's great. He did survive longer than I thought after he got stabbed in the throat, I will say that. But the combat itself was fantastic.
Our colours is up. Now we'll finish off the rest in the courtyard.
So, a sword to fight in doorways isn't the best weapon, because obviously it can catch on the door frame. You can't get those kind of like sideways cuts, so that'd be really hard. At this point, I would probably be using it more point on to thrust and try and make sure that I'm keeping one opponent in front of the other and bottlenecking them rather than throwing those cuts. Or if I had to, again, pulling it into that half sword and just using it more like a spear and offsetting the weapons and thrusting in. Cuts are not going to be your friend in this situation. That's a hard fight. I don't think you're winning that fight. Somebody with a shield and then in full plate armor in a doorway, you're going to have a really hard time finding any kind of openings there. I mean, he dispatched the guy with the shield. Okay, fair enough, right? He did it. And maybe, your chances with him are pretty good. But the guy in full plate armor has all of the advantages. Very few openings that you can hit, and again, he's got the range, so he can just keep you at a distance and hit you with that spike until eventually you tire out or bleed out or both. The armor didn't help him. All right, cool. Overall, I thought it was superb. It looks good. We see the sword used in a number of different ways. We see those covering actions turning into thrusts. There are a few occasions where I feel like the armor could behave a little bit differently, so it could protect the wearer from certain cuts or thrusts that probably wouldn't be particularly effective. But overall, just a great looking game. I wasn't going to get this game, but now I feel like I have to.